Is it the trip to Mecca?
It is a trip to Mecca. Was that what you were going to say, McClatchy? Was it? She's ignoring me. She's mad that I didn't call on her. Wow. She's going to go back to the president of the Hurt Mr. Kenny's Feelings fan club. Great. Anyways, we're recording this lecture. And now it goes down in history. So, we're talking about Mali. Now, Ghana fell apart. Remember, they had the war with the Almoravids, and they won the war. They were happy about winning the war, but they spent all their time focusing on the military conflict that they stopped protecting the trade routes. Different kingdoms broke away, and Mali is going to be one of those kingdoms that break away, and eventually will take over Ghana's old territory. Now, once again, I'm not going to ask you what the people were. They were the Mandi. You're not going to need to know that, though. The Mandi people, they live south of Ghana. And they are going to borrow from Ghana's playbook. They're going to say, you know, they got super duper rich from taxing the gold salt trade. And let's face it, Sahil is still going to want that sweet, sweet gold. Madeline is going to want that delicious salt. So that trade's still going to happen. So Charity says, I am still going to make lots of money. Once again, too, the same rule. If Elijah finds a gold nugget, he has to go give it to Queen Charity's main henchman, Sarah, to turn into gold dust. Of course, Queen Charity keeps some of the gold powder for herself. Sarah gets paid a little bit. But then Elijah, you gave it because then you are able to actually go to Jacob's general store and be able to buy, you know, all of the things Jacob has to offer, like toothbrushes. That's right, Jacob's store sells toothbrushes. It's very important, oral hygiene. Also, just like Ghana, when Campbell goes to Jacob's Emporium, she doesn't have any gold. She pays in salt because they were both equal in value. Pretty cool, huh? Now, the founder of Mali for as an empire is going to be a guy named Sundiata, and he is going to wind up taking the title Mansa, which translated roughly to English is emperor. So when you hear like Mansa Musa, like that's not his first name. Mansa is his title, just like how the king of Ghana was called Ghana. Then we named the kingdom after him. All right. And, you know, he founded it by military conquest. All right. So, you know, you could just say he was a warrior. You know, I'm not going to ask you the dates, but you need to know from this slide, Mali rose up out of Ghana's ashes. A similar economy. So if you say similar economy and you know that means they taxed that gold and salt were equal, that's great. And you want to know that Sundiata was the founder and Mansa is their name for ruler. You know, you can shorten things up all nice. Yep, Sundiata is still often considered a hero today, and there is a country of Mali today, and Mali is actually right here. So it's nice to see that, unlike Ghana, which was up here, and then Ghana's right there in reality, Mali actually has part of Mali in it. At least I got a smile, even though she's president of the Hurt Mr. Kenny's fan club, Feelings fan club now. So, Mansa Musa. He's the most famous ruler. Really, with Mali, we talk about two. Sundiata, the founder, and then Mansa Musa, because he is going to be considered the best of Mali's rulers, and he's certainly the most famous because of what he did. Now, Mansa Musa is going to be important because Islam had been around in West Africa for roughly 300 to 400 years prior to Mansa Musa. And some Africans converted to Islam. Many kept indigenous religion, their indigenous faith. Many Arabs lived in West Africa at this time, and they were Muslims. Well, Mansa Musa is going to be the first truly devout Muslim ruler in Africa. And when I say devout, it means he actually followed his faith. There will be people prior to him that will say that, oh, I'm Muslim, but they don't really do it. Just like how they're, depending on how people practice their faith, there are some people that say they're of one faith, but they don't really do any of the practice. So it's more of a cultural thing as opposed to something true to them. Whereas Mansa Musa truly believed in Islam. And with that, he followed the 5 pillars. And of course, that meant he wanted to follow the fifth pillar of his Hajj to Mecca, which Savona told us, of course, is when you go on a trip to Mecca, a religious pilgrimage. So I'm pretty sure what Emmeline was going to word that, but she was so mad at me for calling on Savona that she wouldn't even respond. So he goes and does this Hajj in style. Because when you are the king, or the Mansa, because remember, Mansa is not his first name, it's his title, he just doesn't go by himself. This isn't like a pilgrimage where, you know, you're going and being very humble with it. This is a huge event. He takes 60,000 people with him. 60,000 people with him. That's soldiers, that's servants. And here's the thing. As those 60,000 people go, it's like a parade. And how many of you guys have ever been, I'm pretty sure the Kris Kringle parade does this. If you've ever been there, you know, so you're out like watching the parade and you're like, oh, it's so cool. It's so nice. And you got people being all fancy, stuff like that. And they throw out candy to the audience. You guys ever been one of those? Okay. Now imagine that, but instead of candy, they're throwing out gold. Like, yeah. That sounds like a pretty great parade to be watching. So they bring so much gold on this. Like, it's incredible. And they would seek people out. And it's not like that they would just throw out coins. Like, the servants would go up to Sahil and be like, here, courtesy of Mansa Musa. Here, Mide. Here is a gold coin. Here, Charity. Here's a gold coin on there. Here's a gold coin. You know, yeah. They would just go up and give gold, or gold necklaces, gold trinkets. So Mansa Musa is showing off his incredible wealth here because he is so rich, he can literally just give away gold. It's incredible. And here's the thing. Prior to Mansa Musa's Hajj, there was not a map with Mali on it. Okay? There was no African kingdoms on the map. There was Africa, but they didn't put any kingdoms on it. After Mansa Musa's Hajj, like in our song, puts Mali on the map. Yes, it literally puts Mali on the map. People are like, oh, we should probably pay attention to them because, you know, they're really rich and we want all that gold. Yeah, it puts Mali on the map. It's crazy. You don't have to write this right here. But yeah, like I said, 60,000 servants, 80 camels carrying more than 4,000 pounds of gold. Now, 12,500 stabs of pure gold. This is all just to show how powerful Mansa Musa is, how rich he is. So he is going to go to Cairo, Egypt, the capital of Egypt, and he is going to give so much gold in Cairo that he is going to crash the Egyptian economy. Meaning, gold, there will be so much gold in the economy. Yeah, that's right. He's following the zakat, giving to the poor. Good job, Amer. But he's going to give so much gold that gold is going to lose its value. Because let's think about it this way. Most people back then in their lifetimes would have almost no money always. Money wasn't really a thing until more modern times for most people. Like the rich, of course, they always had money. But so let's pretend that in Saya's whole lifetime, she might make $10. And that's if she saved every little cent she ever had. Okay? Let's pretend Saya in her lifetime would only ever make $10. And then one day, she's given something that's, let's pretend, worth $1,000. Okay? So in her whole lifetime, typically, she would only ever make $10. But then, you know, when Mansa Anna comes by and hands her a gold piece, it's worth $1,000. Is Saya going to go to her job the next day that absolutely broke her back, was uncomfortable, terrible, working 14 hours a day? Is she going to go to that job? No, because like half a penny she would have made for the week is not worth it compared to the amount of money she just got. Does that make sense? So because people were paid so little back then, almost nothing, when they're given this gold, they're like, I'm not going to work. So the whole economy of Cairo crashes because Mansa Musa is showing off his awesomeness. Isn't that wild? It's so cool. So, Oh man, it gets me so excited, Mansa Musa and everything like that. So that's let's see here. How much? I'll tell you what. Let's keep going. There's not a lot left, really. So, another thing that happens, Timbuktu becomes the center for learning and education and trade. All right? It becomes a cultural center. Mansa Musa, when he goes on his Hajj, he is going to bring back architects from Mecca. And actually, he's going to wind up running into a Spanish architect who is also on his pilgrimage to Mecca and bring him back to go turn Timbuktu into an amazing city. He builds all of these schools to make it so more people can learn. And he builds tons and tons of mosques so people can have a place to worship. One of the things that we're going to start noticing during Mali, and we're going to get to this later on in the unit, I guess we're probably going to get to it next year. Isn't that so fun to say how we're going to do something next year? Because it's like, 2 weeks away. All right, no one laughed. You guys are so mean to me. But anyways, we're going to start learning about how Islam is going to change in West Africa, where we're going to have kind of like pure traditional Islam typically being practiced in the Middle East and places like Spain and Indonesia. Actually, I shouldn't say that. In Indonesia, we're going to see it blending with Hinduism. Well, over in Africa, we're going to see it blending a lot with the indigenous religions. So we're going to have some aspects of animism being put in there too. But we'll get into those next year. Oh, it's so much fun to say. So Timbuktu, the Center for Trade, Education. Hi there, Matthew. Good to see you, sir. Don't worry, I'm recording it so you can catch anything you missed. Moving on to our final slide because I am going to be gone in 4 minutes. Yeah, because next year is January 3rd or 2nd, whenever we have school again. Yeah. Come on, man. Anyways, Mali's decline. So Mansa Musa was awesome. He was great. He was the best. However, he was a tough act to follow. The kings after Mansa Musa, they didn't have the same power, and probably Mansa Musa hurt Mali a little bit by giving away all of that wealth. So Mali is going to be weakened. And the same thing that happened to Ghana is going to happen to Mali, where we're going to have a North African group, the Berbers this time. We have the Almoravids for Ghana, and this time the Berbers are going to attack. So we're going to find the tradition that all of our West African empires are going to become powerful from taxing the gold and salt trade, but then they're also going to fall from North African invaders. And the Berbers are going to come in and attack. And the Berbers will wind up defeating Mali and conquering part of their territory. It's going to be similar, however, whereas Mali is more going to be focused on the war than protecting the trade routes, and it will break apart. And next time, we'll talk about Songhai, which is going to rise from Mali's ashes, once again being once part of the great empire and becoming an empire in its own. So that's going to be our notes for today. Thank you so much for your attentiveness and your awesomeness. Stopping the recording now. Do we have any questions?